Deadline extended. Covered California allows a few more days to enroll for 2019, but a court ruling could bring an end to the national health care program. And high surf hits local beaches. An update on the dangerous conditions along San Diego's coastline.
Young people are tired of just having their parents and worried about how much they're paying, and it's a reality for us.
The political power of young San Diegans. Meet a local community organizer who's pushing for change in City Heights. And affordable housing at the fairgrounds. The city of Del Mar considers an idea to address the need for homes in North County. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Congress is running out of time to avoid a partial government shutdown. The deadline for a new government funding bill is Friday night at midnight. Members of Congress are on break until Wednesday. President Donald Trump says he wants the bill to include $5 billion to fund a new border wall. Right now, the proposal doesn't have enough support to pass. So what could the impact of a potential shutdown have here in San Diego? KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar explains.
Ebony, fortunately, 3/4 of the government is funded through the next fiscal year thanks to an October spending bill. That includes the Department of Defense. So that means one of San Diego's biggest employers, the United States Navy, will likely not be severely impacted by this potential shutdown. However, several other key agencies like Transportation, Commerce, Agriculture, and Homeland Security have budget bills that haven't been approved. According to Mark Balmert, the executive director of the San Diego Military Advisory Council, that could mean furloughs or delayed paychecks for employees who are considered non-essential.
Right now, the impact is uncertainty, and with the shutdown looming, even active duty, they wonder, is their pay going to be affected? Do they come to work or not? Those are things that the Coast Guard and others in Homeland Security will have to answer for their people, and I'm sure that they're awaiting guidance from higher up.
Now, usually law enforcement officers and TSA officers at the airport are considered essential employees. In past shutdowns, this means they need to show up, but they won't get paid until there's a resolution. According to the American Federation of Government Employees, the largest federal workers union, government employees take home an average of $500 a week. A spokesperson said any interruption to their pay during this holiday season would be, quote, devastating. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
More members of Congress want to know what's going on with asylum seekers at the U.S.-Mexico border. They're down in Otay Mesa today to observe the process. KPBS border reporter Jean Guerrero just wrapped up a Facebook Live session with one of the members of Congress.
All right, KPBS border reporter Jean Guerrero here on the Mexican side of the Otay Mesa port of entry, where a group of about 1,500 asylum seekers have been waiting for more than 2 hours. They were escorted to the port of entry by 2 members of Congress, including Nanette Berrigan, who I have here with me. They were hoping to allow this group to bypass the long wait list, where people have to wait weeks, sometimes months, to get into the U.S. Nanette, can you tell me a little bit about what's going on here right now?
So I'm currently standing on the U.S. side of the border, very thin border. I came here to observe with my colleague on what was happening here at the port of entry. As a member of the Homeland Security Committee, we're told that people can present themselves at any port of entry for asylum. And today I came to observe that process, and what I saw happen was not exactly what we're being told in Congress.
What are they telling you now?
Well, the last that we have heard is that people can present themselves at any port of entry. When I came here to observe, I saw the officer and originally say he was going to take the unaccompanied minors, but he wasn't going to let anybody else in. They had to go to a different port of entry, San Ysidro. And, you know, for us, it's just asking questions because we're just here observing, and that is, you know, that's not what your boss told us in Congress, that you can go to any port of entry, and under what authority are they limiting it to a port? And then all of a sudden it became a capacity issue. Then all of a sudden he said that they had no capacity. And I said, well, we'd like to come in. Let the two members of Congress come in and take a look at your capacity issue so we could see for ourselves. The problem is we're on the U.S. side of the border.
Why is that significant? Okay.
We have to get a supervisor.
All right, so a supervisor is coming right now to talk to the members of Congress, but I did want to note that the significance of this group of people being on U.S. soil is the fact that U.S. immigration law says that when somebody fears persecution in their home countries, they cannot be turned back. I'm going to be wrapping up this Facebook Live, and we'll get back to you with more soon.
Imperial Beach's mayor met with Mexican officials today to discuss the cross-border sewage problem. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has details.
Millions of gallons of sewage flowed into U.S. waters every day last week as Mexican officials worked to fix a broken sewer line in Tijuana. Imperial Beach Mayor Serge Dedina says the sewage forced the closure of beaches in his community, and that's why he's working so hard to fix the problem. Dedina met with Mexican federal officials to see what can be done.
Just having meetings isn't enough. Having conferences isn't enough. We need to really push everyone as hard as possible. Otherwise, we're not going to make it to the goal line.
The goal line is stopping cross-border sewage flows. Imperial Beach is one of a number of municipalities and clean water groups suing the U.S. federal government for not fixing the problem. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The boom is a bust. A large trash collection device in the Pacific Ocean is not working. The Ocean Cleanup is a private company that launched from San Francisco in September. Engineers say the large boom that's used to collect plastic isn't moving fast enough. As a result, most of the plastic is floating away from the collection area.
The system is being able to rotate when the wind shifts, and it's able to stop and concentrate plastic. However, what we do see is that the system isn't moving fast enough yet. So basically, sometimes the system actually moves slightly slower than the plastic, which of course you don't want, because then you have a chance of losing the plastic again.
The company is working on a fix in hopes to bring the first load of trash back to land by next summer. Dangerous surf leads lifeguards in Ocean Beach to close down the pier. Forecasters say waves as high as 11 feet are expected. The conditions will last through tomorrow in San Diego and Orange County. Strong rip currents are also expected. Erin Calandra has details on the high surf in tonight's forecast.
Good evening to you. I hope your Monday got off to a good start. Now, much of the county is under a high surf advisory. We are seeing some waves up to about 11 feet in spots, so it's dangerous out there. You're asked to avoid the beaches. We did have a little bit of precipitation today. Look at that, especially the western side of the mountains. A couple of showers popping up because of all this extra moisture that's coming in off of the Pacific. To the north of us, they even had some mountain snow. We're talking feet in the highest elevations of the Sierra. So lots of tricky travel if you're heading in that direction. Tonight, we will see mainly clear skies, couple of clouds around, but all in all, it's going to be pretty quiet. Chula Vista coming in at 51. Ramona at 41, and Oceanside right around 47. In the metro, expect temperatures to be at 54 tonight for the low, mainly clear skies. And here's tomorrow, dry and mild, looking good. We'll have plenty of sunshine, and temperatures are going to steadily rise over the next couple of days. San Diego at 67 degrees tomorrow, Chula Vista at 68, and Borrego Springs nice and sunny at 74 degrees for the high. Late week, it's looking good, quiet as it normally is here for the West Coast, but look at the East Coast. They're going to deal with more rain. It's been the wettest year on record for some of these cities like D.C., Baltimore, so they could certainly use a break from all of that wet weather. Here we are along the coast the next couple of days, nothing but sunshine here. Temperatures getting up to those low 70s by Thursday, and then cooling down to the upper 60s. Very average temperatures there. Inland will be sunny and warm, getting up to 79 on Wednesday. A little bit cooler Thursday, and then back down to 70 for the weekend. And in the mountains, expect it to be sunny. A bit breezy, though, throughout this week, with temperatures in the low 60s, upper 50s. And in the deserts, we'll be in the 70s with sunshine. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
California is extending its health insurance enrollment deadline by 1 week after a federal judge ruled the Affordable Care Act unconstitutional. KPBS health reporter Susan Murphy tells us how the decision could impact San Diego's health system.
A U.S. district judge's decision to strike down the entire Affordable Care Act could jeopardize future medical coverage for more than 300,000 people in San Diego County and 20 million people nationwide. But it does not change anything for now. In fact, the appeals process could take months, and a Supreme Court decision could take even longer. Until then, Covered California, the state's health insurance marketplace, is urging people to sign up. Executive Director Peter Lee says they've extended the sign-up deadline because of confusion over the ruling. He says no one in California should let this ruling discourage them from enrolling in health coverage or be worried about using the health plan they have. The Covered California enrollment deadline is now December 21st for coverage taking effect January 1st. Enrollment otherwise runs until January 15th for coverage starting on February 1st. Covered California offers federally subsidized rates for those who qualify. The law includes protections for pre-existing conditions, preventative benefits coverage, and a mandate that children can remain on their parents' plans up to age 26. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
The governor of New York is calling on his state to legalize marijuana. Democrats now control the legislature in New York. The governor says legalization should be a priority for lawmakers early next year. New York would be the biggest state outside of California to legalize marijuana. 10 states have fully legalized the drug. Researchers at the University of Michigan say more children are vaping. The annual survey showed twice as many high school seniors used an e-cigarette this year compared to last. The results of the study are similar to a report issued by the federal government a few months ago. The University of Michigan asked 45,000 students about their tobacco, drug, and alcohol use.
We found a very big jump in vaping among adolescents. Among 10th and 12th graders, it was the largest jump we've ever seen in any substance that we've tracked for the past 43 years. We saw a big increase in marijuana vaping this year. So that's typically been pretty uncommon until recently, but these days, in 2018, marijuana vaping increased by 50%. So now it's about 9% of 12th graders.
Experts say one of the reasons for the increase is vaping is the technology. Some devices are as small as a computer flash drive and easy to conceal. Young people gained a national spotlight this year amid political marches and voter drives. KPBS reporter Taryn Minto recently spoke with a young advocate who has spent this year calling for change in San Diego's City Heights neighborhood.
You've been active with the nonprofit Mid-City Community Advocacy Network since you were 12. Yes. Tell me how you got started.
So when my brother got involved with Reality Changers, I followed him, and he got introduced with Mid-City Can through a community service event in City Heights. And it was the youth kickoff event for the youth council. And I wasn't at that kickoff event, but the first meeting right after, I showed up with my brother. My brother was really annoyed by me. He was like, "Why are you following me around?"
Hi, I'm Rosa. I'm in 10th grade. I'm 15 years old.
And I was just like, "You're talking about the community. You're talking about college, and so reality way, like something that we could possibly do." And I continued being annoying and did that.
What have you accomplished as a youth council member for nearly 10 years with Mid-City Can?
So my biggest life accomplishment, along with the other youth council members, is bringing a skate park in City Heights, and not just the skate park, but also the plaza. That was a dream that we had. We visited different youth centers in Oakland. We were like, there's no way we're gonna get that in City Heights, or there's no way that much big territory is gonna come to City Heights. But when my brother got hit by a car, after coming back and finding out what our project was, we thought it was like, this is relevant. This is so relevant.
I was riding down the sidewalk, and this guy was coming out of a driveway.
And then he gets hit, and he's still in home, and he's like, I got hit by a car.
Like many young people in the community, Marcos exercises on the streets, and he didn't let the accident stop him.
Youth in City Heights are getting hit by a car. For primary example, my brother, and we decided to bring a skate park in City Heights. And at first, we thought it was gonna be like a year most of that work that we were gonna do. We did not expect it to go for almost 8 years in total of just like campaigning as well as we secured the funding and the land in the fourth year, but the construction, that took forever, and we did not expect that to be that long.
You told me that you felt youth and young people were often dismissed by adults, especially those in positions of power.
A lot of decisions were just made for us, and people didn't believe in us because we were just kids at the time, I guess. That's what they would always consider us.
How do you explain to adults and elected officials that youth shouldn't be overlooked? It's
really quick for us to just show up in numbers, and because sometimes when we're just young people talking to older people, it's like dismissive, like, oh, you know what you're saying, I guess, in the room, but when you leave, they just ignore us and be like, oh, I guess they said this. And I think when us are physically present and showing up in numbers, there's no way they can ignore us, especially if the media's around, and you ignore a young person in front of the whole world, like the people that's the viewership, they look bad. And then just making them held them more accountable by just making sure that they listen to the young people in the room and just bring that attention to the people, because the community members is not going to forget that if they're ignored. And then that's when we show up in numbers to the polls and reelect people that are going to listen to us.
You have a new role as community organizer with Mid-City Can. And you have said that it's sort of a dream job.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I saw how relevant and how powerful our voice is in City Heights. And I went to college to come back to my community, and being a community organizer and being able to invest full time and just making sure our community shows up and knows about what's going on like in system levels and policy is what I want to do, because our community needs to take ownership on what policies are impacting us.
On what local topics should we expect to see young people calling for change?
Definitely in City Heights and in San Diego, the youth opportunity bus passes, that's going to be coming out a lot. Young people are tired of just having their parents and worried about how much they're paying. And it's a reality for us. And that, like, restorative practices in schools. That's going to be the voice that's going to keep coming and holding our people that said that they're going to support us accountable.
Well, thank you very much, Rosa Olasquaga.
Thank you.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, 2 new reports outline how Russia targeted Americans by race, religion, and ideology in the 2016 elections. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
California will not be able to charge an extra fee for text messages. The Public Utilities Commission announced last week that it wanted to charge a new tax to pay for low-income phone service. But the FCC issued a ruling that classifies text messages as an information service. A federal law limits state authority over those services. As a result, state regulators canceled their plans to vote on the new tax. The San Diego City Council Committee on Public Safety has a new leader. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says Monica Montgomery is promising more oversight of the police.
Montgomery was elected last month to represent Council District 4, which covers most of southeast San Diego. Her appointment as chair of the council's Public Safety Committee at today's council meeting was praised by activists as a chance for implementing more meaningful police accountability measures.
We have to stop trying to cut down a tree without digging up its roots. Our system right now is corrupt, and we have a lot of work to do, and we need you to oversee that work.
Councilmember Montgomery thanked her supporters at the meeting and said she was working to establish a relationship with Police Chief David Nislight.
The people put me in this seat, and we need to dig through the lack of transparency and the differences between what we're hearing from the department and what we're hearing from the community.
The council also confirmed newly elected District 8 council member Vivian Moreno to chair the Committee on Housing and Land Use. The council is now on recess and is scheduled to reconvene January 7th. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The city of Del Mar wants to create affordable housing at the fairgrounds. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says the Fairground Board is looking into the idea.
The city of Del Mar is looking for unique ways to build more affordable housing. One option it's exploring is creating housing at the state-owned Del Mar Fairgrounds. The idea was brought to a Del Mar Fairgrounds board meeting. Fairgrounds CEO Tim Fennell says he's open to discussing the possibility of creating affordable housing there. He says there are fairground staff that could potentially benefit from the low-income housing. Now, former Del Mar Mayor, now council member Dwight Warden, first brought up this idea. He says it's not a fix-all solution for the city, but could help in creating some additional units. And it's also worth noting this is still an idea right now, and no action has been taken yet. At last month's Fairgrounds board meeting, President Steve Shoemaker referred the idea to the board's strategic planning committee. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Advocates of high-density housing say future construction must be near local transit hubs. KQED Newsroom's Thuy Vu recently spoke with a state senator who wants to speed up the process and a UC Berkeley law professor on the resistance to the idea.
Senator Wiener, this is the second time you're introducing legislation of this type to require high-density residential development near transit hubs. What are you hoping to accomplish with this?
Sure. Well, we have a terrible housing crisis in California, a housing deficit of 3.5 million homes, which is equal to the deficit in the other 49 states combined. And we see the results with working families being pushed out, people being pushed into homelessness, young people unable to get a foothold, and we have to take real action. So as we build those 3.5 million homes, what we don't want to do is keep building sprawl further and further away so people have 2-hour commutes, so we're building in wildfire zones. We want to put that housing near public transportation and near jobs.
Well, the first version of your bill, though, died in committee, and one of the major complaints was that it mandated development in primarily disadvantaged communities, since those are primarily the neighborhoods that are closest to major transit, yet it spared wealthier cities. What changes have you made to address those concerns?
Sure, and to be clear, the prior bill did include wealthy communities as well, but it was disproportionately in low-income areas. We took that criticism to heart, and so right now, the current bill, it allows a delayed implementation in low-income communities at risk of displacement so that local communities can plan to prevent displacement, and it also includes communities that may not have a lot of transit but have a lot of jobs. So people might drive, but they're driving shorter distances. And right now
we have, for example, Palo Alto, Mountain View, where a lot of the tech companies are.
Or Cupertino, there are various cities also in Southern California that fall in that category. And we have a problem now where we know we need the housing to go by transit and jobs, but in so many of our areas that are job centers, that are transit centers, apartment buildings are banned. Only single-family homes are allowed, which is not sustainable.
So, Professor Elkind, regarding the provision that Senator Wiener just mentioned, the one that applies to what you're calling job-rich areas, right, like Cupertino, where Apple is, or Palo Alto and Mountain View, how big a shift is that in California's housing policy? Because up until now, really, local governments have a lot of say over development in their cities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the tradition in California and many other states of local control, where local governments, cities and counties get to say what the zoning is going to be, how tall buildings are, how far apart they're going to be from each other. And the result of that is that we've seen over and over and over again, these cities, these counties say no to new housing. And so in terms of having a jobs-rich housing provision in this new legislation, we'll have to see how that's defined, but I think these Silicon Valley communities here in the Bay Area are really a good poster child for that. They've been very willing to greenlight projects that bring in a lot of jobs, but not the commensurate housing. And so what they're essentially saying is we want all of these workers to be housed elsewhere outside of our community, and we want to essentially put those burdens of the commuting on everyone else, because then people are clogging up the freeways for the whole region.
So what has been the reaction from those cities to this latest version of the bill, SB 50?
Well, they've been uniformly opposed to any loss of their sovereignty over land use, and that's been the big battle in California, and that's why you haven't seen legislation really until Senator Wiener's SB 827 and then now SB 50 that's really tried to rein in some of that local control. But that's a very powerful dynamic. They're a very powerful interest group at some of our wealthiest communities. They like their communities low density, and so this is a big fight with them. And I think the question is the coalition in favor? All of those people who weren't fortunate enough to buy homes when homes were cheaper and tax burdens were lower, or is that discontent enough to push this over the finish line?
Okay, and Professor Elkind, we only have about 30 seconds remaining, but what is your biggest fear of what will happen if we don't resolve this housing crisis?
Well, we're going to see continued economic inequality. What I'm really concerned about is that the way California is going, we're only going to have homes affordable to the very privileged, the very wealthy, the very elite, and we're hemorrhaging our middle class. So unless we solve this, I'm really worried about having a very unequal state, as well as an environmentally unsustainable one.
All right. Professor Ethan Elkind with UC Berkeley and State Senator Scott Wiener, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, the opposition in Tijuana to the migrant caravan, how one woman is organizing those who say the city should not be a haven for U.S. asylum seekers. And on Midday Edition, an interview with Congressman Juan Vargas. We'll talk about the issues at the border that could lead to a government shutdown later this week. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.